Hi, it's Jim Dodson, the Florida Bike Guy. So, is there a sweet spot for healthful age benefits from riding the bike? We all hope so because it's something we enjoy doing. So, I think I actually missed this study. This is something that came out in 2018. There was an article in Bicycle Magazine about it, and I actually had Kati pull the original study. So, this is a study done. By University of Sydney, I think, down in Australia. It's very interesting. So they basically followed about 3,500 people aged 49 and older, and they're measuring, so what was the effect on their life, quality of life, their aging, for those people who had the highest level of physical activity, okay? So they're sort of defining successful aging as the absence of depression, symptoms, disability, cognitive impairment, respiratory symptoms, and cancers and coronary heart disease. Pretty big list. This is a self-reported study, but what was really amazing to me was that older adults, so this is 49 and older, studied for 10-year period, and what they found was older adults with the highest level of physical activity were twice as likely to enjoy successful aging, as I've defined with the absence of all these symptoms, than those people who had the lowest level of physical activity. And so they broke it down into, so what is the highest level of activity? So you know that a MET is a metabolic equivalent unit. It's a measure of exercise. I think it's oxygen burning. And there's various places you can look at how many METs we burn when we're on the bike at various levels. So the study concluded that older adults who had 5,000 or above metabolic minute units per week, so they 5,000 minutes of metabolic units, METs, created the greatest benefit for successful aging. So what does that break down to? So just kind of put it into what we do. So at 12, so I went to Bicycling Magazine also had a great article on this thing in 2018. Their title was, here's why you should ride for 10 hours every week. This is an article by Celine Yeager, July 25th, 2018, at bicycling.com. So they broke it down for the average rider, 10 hours a week. And that's basically 12 to 14 miles an hour, okay? That produces 8 METs per minute. You need 625 minutes to reach your 5,000, and that's 10 hours a week at 12 to 14 miles an hour. Or 14 to 16 miles an hour, that's 10 METs per minute. You need 500 minutes, that's 8.3 hours a week, okay? I'm gonna give you a simple chart here in a minute. And then at 16 to 19 miles per hour is roughly 12 METs per minute. 416 minutes equals 7 hours. So here's a little chart that I worked up. So you can meet this 5,000 MET minutes per week threshold. At 12 to 14 miles an hour, you need 10 hours. At 14 to 16 miles an hour, you need 8.3 hours. And at 16 to 19 miles an hour, you need 7 hours per week at speed on the bike to get to your 5,000 MET per minutes per week threshold. Now remember that the study actually showed that those who exceeded 5,000 MET minutes per week had the greatest health benefit. I've had this conversation with Dr. Merkin. If you don't have Dr. Merkin's e-zine, I would highly suggest you get it. Dr. Mirkin e-zine or drmerkin.com. And sign up for his e-zine. I'm sure that Dr. Merkin probably covered this study in 2018. I did not check to see. He and I have had this conversation before, and he said, Jim, the studies all show that high, what do you call it, those who ride at high levels for the longest period of time have the greatest health benefits. And I think what's so significant about this article is, you know, you have the World Health Organization, which is in the news right now, unfortunately, saying that the average person only needed 600 per week. Well, 600 per week doesn't do much of anything to move the needle. The baseline that they were studying against, the 5,000 METs per minute versus the person has 1,000 METs per minute. And they had a twofold increase in health benefits over the person with 1,000. The World Health Organization was only recommending 600. So it's way off the money. And the conclusion of the authors was, we're way underrepresenting what people need to be doing in order to get maximum health benefits from cycling or exercising in general. I think it's, you know, when we look at, there's a lot of studies that have shown in general that exercising prolongs life, increases quality of life, makes things generally better for everyone. This is the first one that I had seen that kind of broke it down and said what you can do and what level of exercise actually produces a quantitative improvement. Perhaps Dr. Merkins reported on this. But, you know, looking again at successful aging, and, you know, this was saying that for the maximum benefits, this is someone who's going to have as they age. Now, remember, they're saying normal aging includes being exposed to all of these things, which I'm going to read off. But if you exercise at the highest levels, you get your 5,000 MET minutes per week. You have the greatest opportunity to avoid these things at the highest level. You have 2 times more likely not to have these things, or basically cutting your risk in half. It's the absence of stroke. It's the absence of coronary artery disease, angina, heart attacks, cancer, diabetes, optimal cognitive and physical, mental, respiratory, and vascular function, lack of disability, and being functionally independent. You know, that is probably the list that everyone in the back of their mind has most concern about as we age, all of these hot topic health issues. And according to this study, and it'd be interesting to see if anyone has more information about this than I do, whether there's been follow-up studies or even perhaps larger studies that have addressed this issue. But I think that this is something that we can all measure, decide what level of benefit we want to achieve, and then attack it. It's just a matter of doing more of what we enjoy doing. You know, if you want to get it done in 7 hours, you ride faster. If you want to do it in 10 hours, you ride slower. And it's there for everyone can calculate their level of activity and determine how many hours a week they need to be on their bike to get these benefits. So I thought this was pretty interesting. I think it's really helpful for us to understand how to cut our risk for getting any of these debilitating conditions. I know that we're continuing to be in this coronavirus issue environment, and I think it's still a great time to be on our bikes. I think people are tired of riding solo, but I'm, again, suggesting it's the right thing to do. I did read of a club that had a bike ride this last week that had 30-second intervals where they started everyone and social distancing at the rest stops. And I thought that was an interesting way to approach it. That to me, I felt I would feel safe getting into a ride where 30-second interval between each participant. Everybody's got to do what they think is the right thing for them. But so let's all address these issues responsibly and be who we are called to be in the community, set good examples for those around us. If you have questions or comments about what I've said today, I'd love to hear from you. I'm Jim Dodson, the Florida Bike Guy. Let's be safe. Take care. Bye.